Well, welcome back to the Are You Strong show. I have a great guest tonight, another Rutgers athlete, and who's made his name in the athletic world, and who is in now in the professional world of golf. Welcome to the show, Xavier Marcoux.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. The more Rutgers athletes, the better.
Hey, there's a lot of us,
Yep.
and
You
there's a
are
lot of us
you
doing
are
big things.
Yep, there are. There's a ton of you guys doing big things. And I think without counting, I think you're my 16th Rutgers athlete.
You're like maybe like 3% of the way to complete there.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of similarities when I have a Rutgers athlete on. They talk about the banks, they talk about the culture, they talk about the support system, they talk about the school, and they talk about how much they loved it there.
Yeah, it's second to none. I don't know if am I your most recent Rutgers grad that you've had on the show?
I've actually had a couple guys that are still playing.
Wow. Okay, so definitely not most recent, but
No.
yeah, I mean it's the way that the whole school's going in terms of athletics, and it's awesome to see. And I'm not from New Jersey. I'm born in Quebec City, but I lived outside of Boston for most of my childhood, and I kind of didn't really know what to expect going to a New Jersey school like Rutgers, but fell in love with it right away. And just,
Yeah.
I mean, the grit and the culture, it's just like everyone talks about it. Like we're built different as
Oh
Rutgers
yeah.
athletes than we are anywhere else.
And you said it, the grit. It's the Rutgers athletes are taught just to keep fighting.
Yeah.
As Shiana would say, keep chopping. I think that keeps going, spreads out amongst all the sports. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself. You mentioned, hey, you're from Canada. Talk about that. You migrated down here, and now you're a Massachusetts guy. And talk about that story.
Yeah, I've kind of been all over the place. I was born in Quebec City, moved to Boston or just outside of Boston when I was 5, and then grew up playing hockey, golf, baseball, kind of everything, and then eventually decided I was too small for hockey and went into golf. And then when I decided golf was my thing, I went to boarding school in Florida when I was 15. So I've been on my own for a long time and spent 3 years down there, and then eventually made my way to the banks. But it's uh it's been a wild ride, kind of all over the place, but it's been a very rewarding ride.
So boarding school at 15. Now, if that's because you were such a good golfer at that age and that was a good place to go, or is it just for the school?
I think I'm very lucky that I have a really good support system with my parents, and I wasn't, I was never, every level I've kind of jumped to, I was never like the guy that everyone was like, oh, like he's unreal, he's really good. But I always had a really hard work ethic, and I think my parents saw that, and I told them like, I want to focus on golf. And I think the best way for me to do that is to go somewhere down south. And they were really supportive, and they funded that for me to go down to Florida and be able to practice 12 months a year and really kind of hone in on what I needed to do to get to the next level. And then I got to the golf academy. I was nowhere near the best guy there, for sure. Like I was probably bottom 50%, and then I slowly worked my way up to being probably one of the 3 or 4 best guys there. And then went off to Rutgers, and even at Rutgers, just kind of worked my way up. And freshman year was learning experience, and then eventually I ended up being all conference my last, or not all conference, all Northeast my last 3 years. So it's been a constant kind of gradual rise for me. Nothing super flashy, just kind of work and keep moving up.
So you mentioned hockey.
Yep.
A lot of Canadian guys love hockey,
Oh yeah.
right? Um, how old were you when you made that focus on golf? Hey, you know what? I'm not, hockey's over, golf, here we come.
Um, I think I was a freshman in high school. I was 14 or 15, and I had decided I was tired. I was third string on varsity my freshman year. I was a goalie, and I was like, I'm tired of opening doors. Golf's way more interesting to me. I find a lot more enjoyment in practicing and working hard playing golf versus hockey. I wasn't really loving just needing to grind and go to the rink every day and do that.
Yeah,
And I found that enjoyment in golf, so I decided to specialize at 14, and then the rest is history.
this is history. So talk about the recruiting process. You know, for a high school student, right, Xavier, it's stressful to, hey, where am I going to go? Where am I going to play? How did you get through that? Talk about that experience of making your decision to go to Rutgers, and what was the solidifying thing that happened to say, you know what, this is where I want to be.
I think there's a lot of factors. I mean, I think I started my recruiting stuff probably late sophomore year, early junior year, and I had made a big jump from when I got to the academy to early in my junior year. I was a lot better, and then I just kept getting better. But I in golf, it's a little weird. I was mainly reaching out to coaches myself. It wasn't like football where like Coach Shiano is probably on the phone as soon as he's allowed to talk to some of these guys, and
Right.
he's like, "Hey, like, we want you to come visit here, blah blah blah." So I had emailed a bunch of schools and got a bunch of visits, and when it was time to make my decision, I had narrowed it down to a couple schools, and one of them was Rutgers, and I think there's a lot of attractive things about New Jersey and the Met area, and also being at a Big Ten school and plug Coach Shooty, but he's probably the main reason I ended up going to Rutgers. Just the way he runs his program and kind of the discipline and the work ethic and kind of that attitude of like we know we're not the most touted recruits, but we're gonna outwork everyone. And you kind of see guys in front of you like the Chris Gotterups of the world, who he's on the PGA Tour now, and he worked his way up. He wasn't the most touted recruit ever, but he made his way up because he worked really hard. And I didn't want to go to a school where they had already been established and I was just another player who was getting fed in and fed out to just like
Hmm.
win championships. I wanted to try to kind of build something, and slowly but surely the Rutgers golf program has gotten a lot better, and it was really rewarding to kind of see that and see that growth. And also it gave me the opportunity because I knew I was going to be able to play as a freshman and start as a freshman and learn, because and for me the only way I got better is by throwing myself kind of in the deep end and just figuring it out. And if I had gone to another school, I probably wouldn't have played right away. But that's the main kind of stuff, and it all added up to being a perfect fit for me.
Now, how many guys are on a college golf team?
Somewhere between like 8 and 12.
So not a lot of guys.
No.
No. So to be recruited, especially at that level, right? You got to be pretty darn good, you
Yeah.
know,
I'm
because
sure.
there's
Yeah,
not
I'm
there's
sure the
not a lot of
pool.
spots to fill.
Yeah, I'm sure the pool of golfers is not as big as the pool of football players, but at the end of the day, it's competitive, especially at the Power Five level. And
Yeah.
especially not only is there only 8 guys, 8 to 12 guys on the team, but only 5 guys start every event. So not only do you have to be on the team, you have to be in the top five to even play. So it's not like I'm a freshman on the lacrosse team. I still get to dress, and if we're beating the other team by 10, I get to go in. It's if you're not in the top five, you're not traveling, you're not playing. You're staying at home.
Nothing.
Nope, you don't even get to travel. So it's definitely a different dynamic, and it's interesting in its own right.
So golf, I'm not a golfer. I tried. I was horrible, and I said, I'm not
Not
doing
for
it.
everyone.
No, no. I kind of kid around. I would say, listen, if I hit my ball further than you, why do I have to wait?
Yeah,
That's one of my always like, who started that rule?
I don't know.
You
I
know?
think the main reason for that rule is so no one gets hit. So
Right.
because if you're farther ahead of them, you're just gonna get smoked.
Yeah.
But
But it's like I was like, oh my God. Then the other thing is like, why does it take so long? You know, it takes forever.
yeah,
But these are all the excuses that I use because I was so bad. So I just gave it up. But you know, golf is the I think the average person doesn't understand how physical golf is, right?
I
It
would
looks
I would
very
agree with that.
easy. Yeah, it looks easy on TV. They're just kind of walking in the nice weather. They're just swinging, but your whole body gets abused by all that swinging,
Yeah.
right? And they don't understand. And again, I'm just giving my assumption from a guy sitting in the stands, right?
Hmm.
Is they only see what goes on in the TV.
Yeah.
They don't see the 4,000 swing practice swings. They don't see the how many hundreds of putts a day you do. They don't see all of that. And then the gym, then the workout. But like we said before, I think the toughest part of the game, and you agreed, is the mental side. Can you talk about
Yeah.
that part of the game?
Yeah. I mean, obviously golf's kind of it's a little bit slept on in terms of difficulty. I think a lot of the times, if there's people that think they can just walk up and hit a golf ball and it's that easy, but at the end of the day, there's a lot more that goes into it. And we, you touched on it, like the mental side's just, it's a never ending battle because of how difficult the game is. I think that's the best way to put the mental side of the game. I think this is a line from Coach Shooty. You're never as bad as you are in your worst days, but you're never as good as you are on your best days in the sport. And
Mm,
you're one day away from losing it, and your golf swing's kind of lost, and you got to fight through it and grit through it and figure it out. And then you're one day away from your golf swing getting better and you feeling amazing. And at the end of the day, people talk about confidence in golf, and honestly, confidence for me is not really. I've kind of come to terms with like confidence is more of just knowing that you put in the work beforehand, that
mm.
it's not a feeling, it's not a ebbs and flows like, oh, I hit the last shot good, so I'm gonna hit this one good. It's kind of just knowing that you did everything you could in your own power to hit as good of a golf shot as you can, and then you accept the outcome from there because there's so many outside factors. I mean, we're playing a sport that's outside in the elements on a imperfect surface with an inconsistent surface where every golf course is different and every grass is different, and every waking second that we're out there there's a different factor.
Yeah.
So it's impossible if you're trying to control everything while you're out there, you're gonna drive yourself crazy.
I'll tell you that I think what you just said is I think it goes across all sports, but especially golf, is confidence is knowing you put in the work, knowing that you prepared yourself, and I always say, people say, well, did you rise to the occasion? I don't think you've heard this before too, I'm sure. The people don't rise, athletes don't rise to the occasion. They
No.
fall to the level of their training and preparation,
100%.
you know? And so let's go backwards in time. You're at Rutgers having a good time, and you got to go to class, you got to go to practice, you got to play, you got to go to tournaments, you got to travel. How did you balance the stress of academics and the stress of golf, at the same time for 4 years at the level you were at?
I think, I mean, everyone kind of talks about like the three prong kind of approach to college. Like you have the social life, you have your sport, and then you have academics for us. And I think a lot of being able to balance all of that stuff is focusing, having your kind of priorities straight and knowing that you're not going to party or go out as much as a normal college kid is. And you have to accept that reality right from the get go if you're going to be a good collegiate athlete. I think being able to, I guess, being able to time manage really well is important, but I think mostly honestly, you have to accept that sometimes if you want to be the best athlete possible, your schoolwork's gonna lack a little bit. And if you need to catch up on schoolwork, sometimes your golf's gonna lack a little bit. I think it's really hard to get pulled in a lot of different directions And sometimes for me, it was nice because I struggle to leave the golf course. Like I tend to over practice and wear myself out. So if I had schoolwork to do, it was almost a good thing because it made me leave the golf course and think about something else. And in a way, it kind of helped me through. Honestly, it was probably a stress reliever for me to go do schoolwork rather than be hyper focused on golf all the time and
Yeah.
trying to perform to that level.
You know what I have found over the talking to so many athletes is like you said before about the choices you make. And what I find is the really good athletes, the really good ones that have gone on to the professional ranks like yourself and other sports, they had the ability to say the word no.
Yeah.
No, we're not going out tonight. No, I'm not going having a party. No, I'm not staying up. No, it's they were able to say no for the right reasons.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think being able to say no to a lot of the distractions in college is the biggest thing
It's
for
hard, right?
us
It's
athletes. It's
hard.
hard. I mean, I'd say like you try your best to say no as much as you can, and there's inherently a couple days a year where you're like, oh, like I'll be I'll be fine. Like I have to be a person too. I don't just have to be an athlete. Like I can go and do normal people things, but it's a much more diluted kind of serving size of college,
Right.
I think. It's not a full college experience. I think you get bits and pieces of it, and I have great college experiences,
Yeah.
and I just tried to make the most of the days where I could do some fun
Well,
stuff.
I think we trade off, right?
Yeah.
So you traded off. I'm just going to make this up. I'm not saying you said this, but I'm just saying as a tradition, as an athlete, you trade off the Saturday night fraternity party. Just making that up. Not that that's happening, but it does. For the locker room camaraderie, for the bus ride, the plane ride, the winning, the euphoria of championships. You trade those parties and that social life, let's say, for that,
100%.
you know?
I think it's not a complete like 100% trade. You can kind of do a little bit of both. But
Yep.
I think the timing of it's the biggest part. Like we're all athletes. We all have an off season for the most part. And that's the biggest thing that I learned is using your time, like being able to look ahead and be like, okay, like I can I can be a normal human being for a little bit for right now. Like I can be a student. I can be just a normal college kid for this month of November because I don't really like my brain needs the break and you
Yeah.
need to unwind a little bit. But when December hits, you go back to the drawing board and you work on what wasn't working last season and you get better. And you have to do kind of both of those things to keep yourself motivated and going in the right direction.
Yeah. So you kind of just said it, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Looking at your entire college experience, now it's kind of hard to put the whole 4 years into one
Five
quick
years.
answer, 5 years into one answer, right? But what do you think are the most valuable lessons you've learned from being a college athlete?
Do they ever end is the main question. The lessons never end from being an athlete. But um I think the biggest lesson I learned is you can work out your body all you want and you can train as hard as you want, but you also have to you can't just pay attention to your body, you have to pay attention to your mind as well and your
Mm,
brain. That's the biggest I didn't do a very good job of taking care of my mind for 3 years. I just worked and worked and worked and never really let anything. I had that kind of false sense of you're an athlete, you need to be stoic, you need to be a robot machine, like everything needs to be perfect. And I didn't accept that I was a human to begin with. And once you accept that you're a human, you can almost go to a different level of athletic achievement because you're more accepting of yourself and you're almost more confident in yourself because
yeah.
you're just who you are and you know you make mistakes but you flip the switch because you know okay you're a human. I made a mistake. on to the next golf shot instead
Yeah.
of, oh, I should have been perfect there, blah, blah, blah. But I think that side is taking care of your brain and paying attention to it because you can make your mindset better with practice. People don't really think it, but like I'm hitting golf shots every day to make my golf swing better. Why am I not working out my brain? Because it's not visible. You can't see it, but you got to pay attention to it too.
So when did that light bulb go off? When did that switch happen and say, you know what? I'm no longer that, what you said, that robot. Now I'm human, accept it, and let me work on my mental side of things so I can improve.
Probably, I didn't truly understand it. I think I started working with mental coaching more in depth my junior year. Yeah, my junior year or my senior fall. No, junior spring. And I didn't truly understand what the mental game meant until probably late senior year. And mental for me became all encompassing. It became personal life and life outside of sport, interweaving with how my brain is thinking on the golf course. And it became a kind of a all inclusive thing of I have to take care of my brain off the golf course so that it's good on the golf course
But
as
how do
well
you
as
do that?
I mean, for me, it's been talking to a mental health professional every week for the last 2 years because stuff comes up, life happens, life's hard. It's kind of if you're just holding it in, you're not setting
Yeah.
yourself up for success. And it's like my freshman year, I was really good at waiting to do quizzes on the till on the plane home. And you start to realize that even though you're not thinking about the quiz on the golf course, it's weighing on your head in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Same thing with like any old thing that happens to me in day-to-day life, like stressful, I don't know, situations with schoolwork, relationships, whatnot. If I have that in the back of my mind, I'm not gonna have all the energy
Yeah.
to spend on the golf course. So taking care of that allows me to be as sharp as I can mentally on the golf course.
But how do you, I'm just sitting here. You're telling me, you're telling this description,
Yeah,
and I'm sitting here. I'm thinking, I'm picturing you on the golf course, on the green, a 30-foot putt. You're looking down, you're looking at the ball, and you're thinking about something else. Does that ever happen?
it happens. You try to minimize it. That's the thing. The better that's where the working on your brain gets better. And a lot of it's more of like for the most part, when I'm in a tournament, I'm not distracted about something else that's outside of golf. It's I'm not, my attention's not on the right thing in terms of my attention is my, I try to keep my attention on stuff that I can control all the time. And if my attention is on, oh, I hope this putt goes in, or oh, I hope a wind gust doesn't come, and I'm focused on that while I'm trying to execute, things usually don't go very well. But it's more of like I have so much time to like walk and think while I'm out there. I mean, you said it yourself, golf's a long day. And in college we were playing 12 hours a day sometimes. So it's less the conscious distractions. It's more like our brain is the divide conscious, subconscious. There's a lot of stuff that even if it's sitting in your subconscious, it's still in there cluttering your ability to process.
Yeah.
Even if you're not paying attention to it while you're out there, it's still there. It's like if you overload your computer with a bunch of documents and files and whatnot, it gets slow. Same
Yeah.
thing as your brain.
So what kind of things do you work on mentally to build that mental strength up?
Um, a lot of it's trial and error. Like go out there and work on stuff and see how it feels. And where attention control is the biggest thing that I work on is a lot of it I work on meditatively of being able to control where my attention's at because you can think of your attention as a spotlight. For me, it's like a flashlight. I can only have my attention on one thing. If you really can only like no one can really multitask at the end of the day. Like your attention's truly on one thing at a time. And if your attention's on the best things possible, you're setting yourself up for success as much as you can. That's the main thing that I focus on is controlling my attention in terms of when I'm out there, what I'm thinking about and what I'm not thinking about.
I
It's kind
like
of,
that idea. It's like a spotlight. It's you focus on what the light's on.
yeah, 100%.
That's awesome. So pressure, challenges, golf. Let's just stay in the college world, right?
Yep.
What what kind of advice can you give the young guys that are, freshmen, sophomores in golf at the Big Ten level, which it doesn't get any better, right? Who might be dealing with or struggling with that same idea of focus. What kind of advice can you give those guys to deal with those challenges?
I think the biggest thing pressure wise is pressure. There's no like there's I guess there is such thing as pressure. It's kind of it's your own ego kind of weighing you down and being like and telling you you need to do something or you need to execute something. But in reality, like if I miss a golf shot, is someone gonna come and execute me? No. Life's gonna go on. It's just a game at the end of the day. And if for me the biggest thing that I've kind of learned to deal with that kind of pressure is staying in a routine and staying consistent process wise and saying, okay, how am I going to best set myself up for success, knowing that I don't have control over the outcome of the situation? Because the pressure comes when you're trying to control things you can't control, like if this putt's going to go in or if I'm going to hit a good tee shot or what, vice versa. And for me, it's gone away. I try not to think about that stuff. I'm trying to solely think of like, okay, little like granular details about what I'm doing. Like, okay, the analogy that me and my mental coach uses every golf shot I'm trying to lay bricks in a house. Because if you don't lay good bricks, your house is going to crumble. That's the
Yep.
base of the house.
Like build the
So
foundation.
exactly. So I try to take in as much information as I can. I try to make a decision based off of that information, and then I prepare to execute whatever my routine is. If I have to line up somewhere, if I have to pick the right club, whatnot, and then from there, it's putting my attention on what I want it to be through the shot. And if I pay attention to that, I can be satisfied with whatever the outcome is, and then the pressure goes out the window because you did your best. Because you can't ask yourself to do anything more than your best.
Right. I mean, I love what you said. Stay in a routine, consistent process, focus on the details.
Yeah,
And that's hard for a young guy.
it's hard for everyone.
Yeah, it's
It
hard
doesn't
for
like
everyone. Yeah. But if
it
you're a
doesn't
young
matter.
guy, 18, 19, 20 years old, in college, crazy big school, all the like you said, distractions going on, it's hard to stay in a routine.
It is. I mean, it takes saying no, like you said, you have to be able to say no to some thoughts and some urges and things you want to do that you have to say no to. And
Yeah.
I guess at the end of the day, it's kind of what's necessary. And it's like the weed out of if you can pay attention to the process and say no and stay in a routine, you're setting yourself up for way more success than the people around you.
Well, this is going to lead into my next question, right? How did you stay as a young man? I mean, it's not like you've been out of college for a long time either. It's like, it's a little, you can measure it in months,
Yeah.
right? Um, how did you stay motivated while you're in school, and be resilient to all the things that were going on? Because, you know, one bad day in golf, you carry that.
I think it, it's really easy to like there's days and weeks where you don't feel like going out to practice, but I think it gets harder and harder the higher up level you get because it's a lot harder to see progress. I think for me, when I saw progress, it was easy to stay motivated because I knew I was getting better and I loved the process of getting better. But as I got better and higher up through college, it turned into getting better was such small increases that it gets a lot harder to stay motivated at times because I guess progress isn't always linear. There's some dips and some valleys here and there because sometimes you got to take a couple steps to go, couple steps back to go a couple more steps forward. And at the end of the day, you kind of have to remind yourself of your North Star. I think for me,
Mm.
my North Star has been like, I want to be a professional golfer and I want to do this for a living. So I kind of have to fight through bad days because I know that there's more good days to come in the future. And trusting that if I'm consistent and I stick to what I'm doing on a daily basis, things will eventually go the right direction. Even if it's not tomorrow or next week or in a month, eventually they will.
So what kind of bad days did you have in college?
I've
What
shot 90 in college before. Like 90 as a Division 1 college golfer is
that
terrible.
sounds pretty good to me.
I mean, as a guy who's as a D1 collegiate athlete, a golfer, like shooting 90s, like
That's bad.
it's not good. And I was just not a good day, and I wasn't there mentally. I wasn't in a good spot. I was thinking about other stuff, and it happens. And then you go to the next tournament, a little better, but not great. And then, oh, maybe the next one after that's even worse. It's just you have to fight through those times because at the end of the day, like a winner is just a loser that never quit. That's the one of the big quotes that I kind of remind myself of. Like, no matter what, like if you don't quit, eventually you'll win. Like we're all losers. It's just we occasionally win because in my sport, one guy wins out of 156 guys every week. So
Yeah. And they win by one stroke sometimes.
exactly, there's way more losing than there is winning. So kind of remind yourself about that and keep chopping along.
So, so I know I'm going to keep driving on this, but you said, hey, that's great. Winner is a loser that never quits. But you must have seen guys quit over
People
your
quit all the time. It's
right.
it's it's kind of the reality of professional sports and collegiate sports. I heard the analogy of like sport is like a shrinking ladder as it goes up and people fall off and like it and it gets tighter and tighter. It's like a pyramid and people fall
Yeah.
off the pyramid and there's only so many people that can get to the highest level of the sport for financial reasons or
Yeah.
mental reasons or physical reasons. Like some people get hurt, some people don't have the money to keep going, and
Yep.
it's just a matter of trying to hang on for as long as you can and
Yeah.
eventually hopefully things go the right way.
Yeah. I mean, I always say the ladder of success is very lonely at the top,
Yeah,
but it's awfully crowded at the bottom,
it is.
and sometimes people, like you said, they quit for uncontrolled reasons.
Yeah, I mean some guys get injured and you can't
Yeah.
play anymore. Like it's not their fault, but it's uncontrollable.
So I'm going to put you in a spot here. Um, let's just stay in the college world still. What was the most competitive situation you were ever in?
Um, Obviously it's easier to think of the ones that what ended up going your way, right? Um, I think for the most part, I've put myself in contention to win tournaments individually probably 3 or 4 times while I was in college, or maybe a little more than that.
Now, is that considered a lot?
Um, for me, it was pretty good because
Okay.
it was later in my career.
Yeah.
I worked my way up to being competitive, and I wasn't always competitive, but once I got to the point where I was competing to win golf tournaments, I think that's the most so-called pressure I've put myself under.
Okay. So how did you handle that pressure? What you're coming close to winning the tournaments, and it's I don't know how many rounds they play in college to win the tournament, but
Yeah.
you're on the final round, you're in the contention and you're going to be 1-2 or maybe three. And how do you handle that pressure?
I think a lot of it's like being able to catch your mind drifting because your mind's going to drift. It's kind of human nature to think about the outcome that what's in front of you. And especially in that moment when you're so close. The one term I did win, I did a really good job of when when my brain did go to the outcome and what I wanted the outcome to be, I would kind of snap myself out of it and just go back to what was right in front of me and go back to the little details in the process that was right in front of me. And I think when you're so focused on that, you don't have enough mental bandwidth. Your flashlight isn't wide enough to think about stuff that causes pressure. If you're just focused on stuff that you're trying to control, that's controllable, there's no pressure. You're just trying to execute.
Can you talk about your last day
You
of,
go first.
oh, there's
Tony.
my watch. Your last day of collegiate golf. What was that experience like?
It was bittersweet. I think life's a lot of chapters, and my college chapter was rather long because of COVID, and being an adult's pretty scary when you're in college. And for me, it was a culmination of just a lot of awesome memories. And my final round was nothing special. I didn't play very well at my last Big Ten championship, but I made sure that I enjoyed it because 50-year-old me would have looked back and say, if you didn't enjoy that, you're an idiot. Because college sports is probably one of the best things that will ever happen to you in your life because it's such a cool experience to be around guys like that and be able to travel and all the memories of driving home or driving to Florida or flying somewhere and getting delayed, even like the bad memories or good memories because they're
Yeah.
stories that you tell forever. And it was emotional. I think committing yourself to the university for so long and then realizing that you're never going to play for Rutgers again, and it hits you pretty hard. But at the end of the day, it's happy, it's happy memories, not sad memories, and
Yeah.
I left it in a good
I
spot.
love
I'm still connected to the program a lot, so it's nice.
I love what you said, the analogy around golf, but you can say this for anything. Enjoy your final round.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I don't think many athletes, college athletes, um, think about or understand what that last day is going to be until it hits them,
yeah,
and who they were and who they were striving to be and who they became is now kind of like and what you said before, something about, life's a lot of chapters,
yeah.
and some guys have a hard time turning the page and starting a new chapter.
I had a hard time turning the page. I had to the whole week before. I was like, I talked to my therapist, and she was like, "Yeah, you seem really stressed out about this. Like, it's just there's light at the end of this golf tournament. Like, this golf tournament is not the end of the world. After this golf tournament, you're gonna move on and you're gonna keep living your life, and there's many more golf tournaments to come. It's not the end of anything. It's just a new chapter of fun and amazing things."
So when did you realize you had the ability to be a pro?
Probably junior year of college. I always had the dream of doing it, but once I got to junior year of college, I knew I could do it and I knew I could compete because I I think maybe the best spot, probably the US Amateur my junior summer, the summer after my junior year, where I was beating kids that like I was beating guys that were top five in the world amateur wise. And
Really?
I can compete with some of the I and then I proved to myself that I can compete with anyone at that point. And from there I was like, okay, let's go. Let's see where this goes. And I still have a lot of work to do, but that's the fun of it. You just keep working and you catch people and people fall off the ladder and you stay on.
Yep, keep grinding. So what did you do to prepare yourself? College is over now. I'm an adult. You're obviously you're an adult at 18, but now you're out of school. You're on your own. What did you to do to prepare yourself for life after college?
Um, I think I tried preparing myself as much as I can to make my game as professional as possible in college. I think it's a big jump. I threw myself in the deep end right after college playing up in Canada, but I think in college I tried to make myself as good as I could be, and I knew that my last college event wasn't the end of my golf journey, so I worked as hard as I could through the end of my college career. There was no coasting at the end. There was no, hey, I'm at the level where I need to be. I'm just gonna coast. I think I had that consistency of just there's more goals past the end of college, and I always kind of had that kind of North Star that kept me pushing golf wise to keep going and keep getting better. Because I mean, I won my first college event, my fall of my senior year, and that's when I was like, oh, like okay, like what now? Because I had been trying to win a college event my entire college career, and that's when I kind of took a little bit of a dip of like, what now? Like that was like my goal for forever, and then
Yep.
took me a little bit, but I had to go, okay, that's not the end goal. There's more goals to go get. So let's go work and go get them.
So do you think that tournament was your most memorable, exciting event of your college career?
Personally, yes. I think team wise, there's just infinite memories to remember. There's just too many to even recall. I think the things I remember the most about college don't really come down to wins and losses for
Yeah.
me.
Yep.
College sport wise, obviously they're big for my career, but the biggest things I remember are like stupid stuff that guys did,
Yeah.
or like guys forgetting their black polo and no one can wear the black polo for the week, or guys leaving their car doors unlocked or wide open when we go on a 5-day trip to Florida, like stuff like that. But I mean, those are the main memories.
So with regard to that, I'm going to put you on the spot again, and I'm not saying we have to get into major details, but what's your most memorable road trip?
Huh. There was one where our flight to Purdue got canceled and there was no way of getting us there on time except for getting in the van and driving.
Oof.
So
And
we
that's what,
drove
about 12 hours?
12 hours. We drove the 12 hours to Purdue, played the tournament, got back in the van, slept in West Virginia on the night back, and then finished the drive the next morning. That was a pretty big one. I mean, there's tons of those stories of like stuff going wrong. Like, there's always stuff that goes wrong. And the honestly, my favorite trip we went on in college wasn't to a tournament. We went to obviously a lot of teams do international trips. We went to Morocco my senior year,
Oh, wow.
and you start to that's the real like college sport experience. Like you're hanging out with your buddies, you're in Africa, you're seeing a different culture.
Yeah.
There's no schoolwork. We're not in school. We're just hanging out. We're playing golf. We're seeing different stuff. We're meeting people. Like that's the best part of it. It's not
Doesn't get any better than that.
yeah, wins and losses matter, but they're not the end all be all.
Well, it's funny if when you talk about wins and losses, can you actually remember your team's overall record for the whole time you were there?
No, definitely not.
Exactly. You can't, but you remember that stuff.
Yeah, you remember the the stupid stuff of like, oh, Weston got food poisoning because he ate that weird thing in Morocco, or like you
Yeah.
remember the stupid stories that I can't tell because I'd get in trouble or
I
all
can only
that
imagine
stuff.
the pictures you guys have on your phones.
I have a picture of me and my teammate holding snakes in front of a cobra from
Oh my
Morocco.
God.
It's like, where else are you gonna get that experience?
Now I'm hoping that was like you had professionals around you showing
Oh
you what
yeah,
to
the
look at.
cobra was like 6 feet in front of us, but it looks like it's like right in front of us. It's cool.
It's close enough,
Close enough.
you know. So I'm going to ask you, some advice type of questions, that you can give, incoming college athletes, okay, kids coming out of high school. What kind of advice can you give them to help them manage the mental side of playing college sports?
Um, well, one, like work on the mental side. A lot of the guys don't even think to even work on it and pay attention to it. But two, just learn as much as you can and be as coachable as you can because the people around you when you get to college have a lot of experience and they definitely probably know more than you do. And I think it's easy to see kids these days think they know everything because they have access to the internet or ChatGPT or whatnot. And in reality, nothing beats real life experience. And if you learn and you pay attention and you're coachable and you ask the right questions, you're always going to go in the right direction.
It's amazing how many young men and women, right? Oh, just college athletes, period. When you talk about the mental side, it's like, oh, I don't want to talk about that. We'll talk about bench press and gym and running and all that stuff, but when you
Yeah.
talk about the mental side, they almost shy away from it.
Yeah, a lot of guys have walls up.
Yeah.
They know I think a lot of people are worried about being vulnerable or showing emotion or I think everyone kind of sees that like everyone thinks that being a robot and a brick wall is what you're supposed to be as an athlete, but the best athletes are the most reflective and most self-aware athletes in the world. I mean, you look at the best athletes on the planet, I'm sure all of them are very self-aware and they work on their mental game because they know that they need to. They're not afraid of working on it.
Yep.
A lot of people are afraid of working on things they're not good at. And at the end of the day, that's not how you get better.
The whole mental side of things today, Xavier, I don't mean to slight it, but it's like it's in vogue today.
Yeah.
Like it's cool to talk about it now, whereas years
Yeah.
ago, it was like voodoo.
Yeah. I think we're going in the right direction in terms of it because now people aren't as in I guess people aren't as scared to talk about what they're thinking because I think when more people start to talk about it, you can realize that people around you are thinking the same things of like, hey, like I'm scared in this moment too. Like, how do we get better at this together? Like, I'm terrified when I have a 3-footer to win a golf tournament. Like, oh, he's definitely thinking the same thing too. But when you, as individuals, we think that no one thinks like we do, but we're all human and we all think
Yeah.
pretty similarly for the most part. I think people are finally starting to realize that a lot of people have pretty similar thought patterns and
Yeah.
we can help one another
Yeah.
through
And
that.
and I think the public, right? The fans, let's just say the fans
Yeah.
are the ones that cause part of the stress on you guys. And let me tell you why I think that is that you said before, don't be a robot. Because we look at you guys as like superheroes.
Yeah.
Like you should be able to do anything in your
Yeah.
sport. How come you can't do that? What do you mean you can't do that? You're like the poor guy, the poor kicker on the Jets the other night. I don't know if you
I
watched that
didn't I
game.
didn't watch the Jets game.
Yeah, they lost, and this poor guy hit the upright twice. Two
Oh,
kicks in a row hits like the odds of hitting the upright on the field goal is like almost zero.
yeah.
And he did it twice. and talk about mental, right? And but everyone's like, what do you mean? How does he miss that? And one was 47 yards out. Like, okay,
Yeah.
you know how hard that is? You know?
I think people behind a laptop and a computer screen have they're not scared to just give people shit for no reason. And you
Yeah,
have to realize that all of these people are way less relevant. And
yeah,
if they're shit talking you about missing field goals, they're not worth your time to listen to.
right. And it's the people that are sitting on the couch with a beer in their hand complaining, you know?
Exactly.
It's
They're
like,
not out there putting in the hours, and
yeah,
you have to you almost have to learn to not care about what other
it's
people
hard.
think at
It's
this
hard.
level. It's really hard. That's why a lot of the guys have gone no social media, no nothing. Because
Right.
even if you think it doesn't affect you, if you see the stuff, it still affects you.
It does. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because you might be on that 3 foot putt thinking what the guy said on Instagram.
100%. And in reality, like if you don't see it, there's nothing to
Nothing to
remember.
interfere. Right. So, so think about, college sports, your identity. College is over. Let's talk about your identity now, as a professional athlete. How do you handle that part of your mental side of your game? Hey, I'm a professional. I'm not a college kid who can go out there and screw up and nobody cares. I'm a pro.
I think that's where a lot of guys get in trouble. They try to make it more than what it is. Like I play a game for a living. Like
Yeah.
and again, like there's so much uncontrollable stuff that can go on. Like my tournament last week for Q school was supposed to be in Florida and the hurricane came through and I had to fly back home and it got postponed. Like there's so much stuff that I can't control that if you're trying to turn this into a job and you're trying to force things and you're trying to like force your living doing this, that's when you run into trouble versus just letting it happen and keep doing what you've been doing that's gotten you here. I mean, you hear this all the time. Like, I'm a big hockey guy, so like I know the Minnesota Wild just signed this rookie defenseman from last year to an 8-year deal, and the one thing he told the kid was, "Don't change anything, just keep being you, because that's what got you here." And I
Yeah.
think it's easy to be like, "Oh, I'm a pro, I have to do things differently." Okay, maybe you need to adjust how you live and what you're doing and how you structure yourself so that you can be most efficient with your time and get better quicker because I don't have school or class or anything else anymore. But at the end of the day, I'm still playing a game and I can't make it any more than a game.
The tough game, though.
It is a tough game. That's why it's so easy to try to force it. You try to make things happen and then it goes the wrong way.
So lessons, your own personal lessons. What kind of lessons, life lessons, have you learned, from the sport that you've actually applied now in your life outside of the sport?
Um, I think a lot of them turn into like just having good people skills in my sport, especially. I can talk to old people, young people, man, woman, wall. Like I can talk to anything at this point. If I had to hold a conversation, and I'm a lot better at not just small talking. I can have a lot deeper conversations and be more open with more people because I'm introverted at heart. I play individual sport and I spend a lot of time by myself, but playing my sport has taught me a lot about making meaningful relationships with people and caring about what other people are doing and not just being in my own world because I could easily do that if I needed to, but being able to interact with people around me and network and talk to people and vice versa is probably the biggest thing on the golf course that I use off the golf course.
Yeah, it could get lonely out there, right?
Yeah, it's lonely and boring sometimes. Like sometimes I'm on the range by myself for 3 hours and there's only me and my thoughts and what I'm thinking, what I'm working on. And at the end of the day, you kind of just have to keep going and keep working through it. But it's way better when you're doing it with people and when you're challenging people around you to get better and they're challenging you to get better. That's when the good stuff comes out usually.
How often do you get out there on the golf course just casually with somebody who's really not a good player? And it's like holding it's almost like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Like if you were out there with a guy like me, who like my best game ever was 103. And that was 15 years ago when I stopped playing. I said, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, how do you handle that? Have you ever been out there where you're just playing with a guy or someone just so bad?
Um, I caddy a lot. So like I walk with people who aren't very good at the game, but I honestly, as long as the person itself is interesting and they're not just acting like the worst golfer to play with is someone who's just miserable out there and like gets mad and isn't fun to be around and isn't like talkative and won't
Yeah.
talk because they're playing bad. If you're gonna talk, I don't really care how you're playing. If you're gonna be a good person and talk and like the best groups that I like to caddy for are the ones that have the best conversations, like
Yeah.
the ones that are entertaining, like
Yeah.
and the ones you meet people that you would have never met to begin with. Like I've met kids from Australia, South Africa, Germany, and you
Oh,
learn
wow.
you talk to them for 5 hours and you're like, huh, he's a cool dude. Like the guys I'm living with in Florida aren't Rutgers guys, they're Penn State guys because I played
Oh,
golf with
boy.
them all the time. Like I played golf with them 10, 15 times in golf tournaments and we
Yeah.
became friends through that.
That's
And
great.
yeah, it's cool.
Here's one thing I was taught. Again, as being a bad golfer, they said if you're going to play with anybody who you think is remotely good, just make sure you have a lot of extra balls in your bag. And because they don't want to see you looking for it, chasing it, where is it? Because, some guys will look for 20
Yeah.
minutes for the ball. So,
Yeah.
so I would always make sure I had like 30 balls in the
Just
bag.
drop it and keep
That's
moving.
it. That's it. Drop it and keep going.
100%.
Yep. Yep.
That's the Vase thing.
Oh, yeah. So let's talk about support. You're a professional golfer now. So
Yeah.
let's talk about all the support that's around you. You have coaches, you have golf coaches, mental coaches, you have sponsors, you have all kinds of stuff. Talk about that whole team of people that are supporting you as the professional golfer.
Yeah, I mean, I have, I guess, swing coach, putting coach, mental coach, therapist. I'm missing people. Swing coach, putting coach, mental coach, therapist, strength coaches. I mean, at the end, I try to keep my circle as tight as I can be, and I try not to. There's a lot of people with differing opinions and different like philosophies, and I try to keep it pretty tight and try to only listen to the people that I've been working with and I trust. But I mean, there's obviously my parents and sponsors and whatnot. I think it's been really cool to kind of see like now that I'm in charge of my golf career, like what avenues I can look into and who I can lean on and how I can get better. And I think having a support system, you can't do this stuff by yourself. You can, I mean, you just get better way slower and
Yeah.
you wouldn't climb the ladder. You'd just sit there and you'd fall off eventually because you'd run out of money. But trying to surround myself with people who are going to make me as good as I can, as quickly as I can is the biggest thing.
So you mentioned mental coach and a therapist. I'm going to guess that there's people out there listening to this right now are saying, what's the difference?
I guess performance coach and therapist. My therapist, I won't talk golf with her for the most part. I'll just talk life. And occasionally golf seeps in. If I'm stressed out about a golf tournament, she'll talk to me. I'll talk to her about that. But performance coach is a lot of there's some of that mental side of like being able to control my attention and some of that stuff that we work on. And a lot of it's structuring my day-to-day life of like, okay, what am I going to work on? When am I going to work on it? Am I a technical phase? Am I in a just be an athlete phase and go play? There's a lot of different nuances to like how I'm preparing for golf tournaments and what I have my focus on and what I'm working on and when I'm working on it for the most part.
Do you ever just play for fun?
I'm not good at playing for fun. I I like doing it occasionally. So like I played our alumni outing a couple weeks ago at Rutgers, and I think there's always that like little ego pull of like, hey, you're a pro, you have to play well around all these alumni people. But I've gotten to the point in my life where I'm pretty comfortable with who I am and how good I am and who I am as a person. So like that was the first time where I shut everything off and I was like, I don't really care what I shoot today. I'm just gonna go have some fun. And it was the day of the Washington game, so like it ended up being just like a fun day. Like if I was trying too hard, I would have just made the golf way less fun. Like turning my brain off can be hard, but when I can do it, it's enjoyable.
How did you do?
I mean,
Did
I
you
played
put
it
it,
fine. I probably shot like 72, 73, but like
and that didn't win it?
no. I was like if I have a beer or two, I lose the club face. Like I can't feel the club anymore because my feels are so nuanced that like once I get a little bit of just like I start to lose my feel and I get really, really bad really quickly. So for me, it's that's kind of the thing that makes me stop caring is if I can just
Got a little buzz.
yeah, if I'm taking a break and let my ego take a chill pill and just go play and have fun and hang out with my teammates.
All right, that's cool. So how about burnout? Golf is there's got to be a stage in somewhere where you're like, hey man, you know what? I don't know if I can keep doing this. Is there any time we almost had the burnout?
It happens all the time. I think you kind of need to take a step back and sometimes you need a couple days off. For me, like I'll get the itch like 4 or 5 days after like into a break. Like I played a tournament in Sweden and went to Copenhagen for a couple days. My girlfriend was with me and 3 days into Copenhagen after the golf tournament, I was like, I'm itching to get a golf club in my hand again, but I felt pretty burnt out after the tournament. So like if I take a break and I step away and I always kind of get the itch to come back. And when it doesn't happen, sometimes you just gotta wait it out and you gotta like push through it. Like the burnout for me, I found that if I get back into a routine, I get back into the structure. Burnout comes when I lose motivation, and when I lose motivation, it means usually means because I don't feel like I'm progressing. But if I fall back into the structure and I trust it, I can tend to kind of work through that burnout pretty quickly.
But I like what you just said there. You fall back into structure. A lot of people don't like structure, you know?
I need structure. I get anxious without structure.
Yeah. If you're going to be a professional athlete, you need to be structured, man. You need to be, everything's got to be methodically in the right
Yeah,
place.
I'm my own boss, so I need to it's like if a CEO of a company wasn't doing everything he could to make the company better, like I have to do everything I can in my
Yeah.
power to get better. So
Well,
structure is one of those things.
how about nutrition? How does that play into a golfer's world?
Same way any athlete would kind of look at it. I mean, obviously it's a little different. I play a sport for 6 hours at a time, so I have to eat while I'm in competition a lot of the time. But I try to eat as clean as I can, and obviously I'm not a robot, so I'll indulge once in a while. But
Yeah. What kind of things to eat while you're playing?
depending on when I'm going out there, if I'm out there during lunch, I'll bring a lunch. I'll pack a sandwich or I'll pack something, and then nuts, anything that's gonna give me some energy that lasts for fruit, nuts, kind of anything that'll give me energy that lasts the whole round.
Any sports drinks?
No, I I mean I drink the element stuff, the like zero cal or the zero sugar hydration
Yeah.
stuff. I'll drink that stuff, but I have to try to keep my sugar level as I can for 6 hours. And minimizing the Gatorades and the Powerades is helpful
Now,
at doing that.
what does the for somebody who has no idea what you're talking about? What does the sugar levels do while you're out there playing golf?
Yeah, I don't want to get too jittery and I don't want to get too tired either. So I have to find the balance of keeping it at the same level. And if I don't eat, my energy level will go down. But if I have like a Snickers bar while I'm out there, I'm going to be just like bouncing all over the place. And that's not good for my brain to operate at the best level. So trying to keep it. That's why the nuts are so good because they're kind of slow burning and
Yeah.
they're not too spiky, I guess. Try not to spike my blood sugar too much.
Okay. What kind of nuts do you like? I
Almonds,
was gonna say almond. All the athletes like almonds.
big almond guy. That's the
Yeah.
biggest one.
Good. So sponsorships, you're raising money, you're how do you do that? If somebody wants to help you, how do they find you? How do they reach out to you? How do they become part of that support mechanism?
Yeah, so as a golfer at my level, I have to raise as much money as I can because we're kind of out of our own pocket. It's not like a lot of other sports where guys are getting paid a salary. I get paid on based on how I play, and at this level, the money's not very, I guess, good to
Okay.
be blunt with it. Like it's not anything you can live off of. So I need sponsors until I get to the level where I can make a living off of it. And I've been working on getting a group of investors together so I can raise some money to kind of fund my career for the next 3 years. And it's an investment. It's not a donation. In the contract I pay it back with an interest, and it's pretty much just it's business at the end of the day. I it's very structured, and if someone wants to hear their proposal, they can shoot me a text or an email at my phone number, vice versa. I don't know where we could put that, but
But just tell people what number can they text you at?
yeah, they can text me at 781-999-0536, and then my email is xmarcoux2000@gmail.com if you want to send me an email. But I'm open to anyone, and everything helps for me. Even $1,000 goes a long way. It's an entry fee. It's a flight. It's
Yeah.
something to keep me going. It's something to keep me going up the ladder.
Do you have a website?
I don't.
No. Okay. Now you gave your email address. Can you spell that out just so people can
Yeah.
get it right?
XMARCOUX 2000 @gmail.
Okay. So hopefully we get a bunch of people reaching out.
That'd be great. I
Yeah.
I would love that. That make my life. The financial pressure is almost bigger now. And in college, that we talked about pressure. In college, there was no financial pressure. I was getting the school was paying for everything.
Yeah.
And in pro golf, you're under the financial pressure of feeling like you need to make your check so you can pay your rent or you can put gas in your car or you can do
Yeah.
all this stuff. So that's almost the biggest. If I can kind of get that off my shoulders, it makes my life a lot easier.
So the future, what does the future look like for you? Say if we can, I don't want to fast forward too far, but what's the next 12 months look like? What are you hoping to accomplish and achieve just in the next 12 months?
Yeah, I'm going through PGA Tour Q School right now. I have first stage in 2 weeks in Florida, 3 stages. Hopefully, I'll be able to get a Corn Ferry card and be able to play out on the Corn Ferry Tour, which is kind of like AAA baseball for those who don't know golf. And through the Corn Ferry Tour, if you finish top 30 on that points list, you move up to the PGA Tour, which is the big leagues basically. So hopefully do that, and then if not, I'll keep working and play the mini tours and try to make a little bit of money and just keep getting better for Q School later in the year because there's always another opportunity later in the year.
Now you said the PGA Tour school. Like what is that like an actual school or is that just a tournament? That's
No, so it's like they call it Q School. It's basically like a 3 stage qualifying tournament.
gotcha.
So first stage is 4 rounds. Top 21 guys get to go to second stage. And then second stage, same thing. Top 15 guys go to final stage. And then at final stage, the top 5 guys will go straight to the PGA Tour. And then the next 40 guys will get Corn Ferry Tour full cards for the year, and they'll go play on the Corn Ferry Tour. It's all about pro golf is all about being like finding opportunities to play and getting your way into these
Yeah.
places. Because there's so many golfers and so few opportunities. So if you can play your way into opportunities, you make the most of them, and it's how you get all the way up to the top.
It's like you said, the ladder. You know,
Yeah,
if you look at all sports, like the NASCAR has like the minors, baseball, the minors, basketball, there's so many underlying leagues that help you get to the top. But as you keep growing, that league gets tighter and tighter and smaller and smaller.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Well,
It's constant battle to move yourself up the ladder.
well, listen, I'm not a golfer because I stink, but I'm a golf fan, and I like to watch and I've gone to a couple of tournaments and been able to walk the course and be part of it. And I was in we sponsored one of the like our parent company sponsored one of the FedEx Cup, I think it's FedEx Cup, and Tiger Woods was in it. And I was literally standing 3 feet from him. It's at some of the holes, which he's sitting there
Yeah,
waiting for the other guy to go, and I'm standing right now. Everyone's screaming, Tiger, you know, and I'm just
it's
sitting there like,
crazy.
yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a lot of fun. The weather was great. We had a lot of fun. It was good. Well, Xavier, is there anything else I haven't asked you? Anything we haven't talked about that you want to maybe discuss before we wrap it up?
No, I think we covered everything. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, this has been great. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day, especially your professional day. You probably, well, it's only 7:45. But
No,
you might,
it's almost bedtime
I
for
was gonna
me.
say, it might be close to bedtime for you.
Yeah,
You know,
I'll go to bed and be up early and right back at it tomorrow. So
that's crazy. Well, listen, thanks again. I wish you the best of luck. We'll be watching, and hopefully, all the listeners will be watching, looking for you on the tour and seeing you pop up and say, "Hey, I heard that guy on the Are You Strong show." And I wish you the best of luck. And what I tell all the athletes, stay healthy.
thank you. I appreciate it.
We'll see you on the tour.
Thank you.